Hello,
everyone.
GCX. What's up, Space? How we doing?
How's the moon? Hope you guys got plenty of oxygen because today's show is going to be pretty breathtaking. That's my one for the month. Don't get upset at me on that one. All right.
What's up, Frank? How you doing, man? Happy
I'm
GCX.
doing good. Here, man, this is fantastic. We're here at GCX. We're in space with all of you guys, and thank you for being here, guys and gals. Today is a very, very special day because today is technically our premiere show. I mean, the shows that we did before, yes, we did 5 to 6 episodes before, and we understand that, but those were introductories. So you get a little bit of, sauce on who is, Technique and who is Matt. But today,
where is this voice coming from?
It's coming from deep down inside because I'm super excited. And let me tell you, is that today is going to be awesome. And we have a great show for you. So let's go through a little bit of stuff, Matt. Let's talk about Commix first and let everyone know what Commix is.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who haven't checked us out yet, my name is Matt, aka Night Hawk Plays. That handsome gentleman over there is Frank, aka Technique. We come to you every Saturday at approximately 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over here on Rare Drop and talking to you about everything comic book, superhero, whether it be Invincible, right? Obviously, we're talking about Loki now. No spoilers. Second episode. Amazing. Right, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about what's going on with Loki and everything. I want to talk about it, but we can't.
We can't.
This
we
show
don't
is
have
not
time.
about Loki. Coming next week. Okay, next Saturday. And that's when we open up. But anyway, Comics is pretty much going to be that Saturday morning cartoon for you that you missed when, remember X-Men used to come on right before those stupid movies on Fox, just ruin the whole day of cartoons. They don't do that anymore. We're bringing you some great comic stuff. But today's show is going to be a very special one because not only are we part of GCX today, which is, thank you for being here for that.
Thank you for GCX, obviously, for having us and working with us on this. Uber excited, obviously, for now and the future.
Yes, absolutely. But today we have special guests, artists and comic book writers, Stephen Mooney and Declan Shalvey. I was going to say Shalvey. I was told to mess up his name, but I won't. It's Shalvey.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Top right, you got Stephen Mooney and Declan Shalvey. How you guys doing? Good afternoon or good evening, because you guys are that way somewhere.
Early evening, yeah.
It's technically evening now, as of right now. But thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here, and I'll have to say it was great having you come in and talk to us for a little bit. You're very, very busy. You're working on some amazing stuff. But before we get started, because I know the audience, we have a lot of young and veteran. I don't want to say the word old because I know some of you got, I have cranky knees as well. Out there, we would love to learn a little bit more about you and what you do. Either one can take the lead.
Rock, paper, scissors, whatever works.
You go, Stephen.
Okay, I'm Stephen Mooney. I've been working in Pro Comics for about 21 years now, I think, which is probably about a year or give or take more than Deck. Maybe we kind of broke in around the same time. And I've worked at all the major companies, Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, IDW, Dynamite. Who else is there?
Keep it rolling.
So a little bit of everything, as Declan, I'm sure he'll tell you. So we know a little bit about everything when it comes to comics, or we think we do. So we're glad to be here to chat with you guys. It's a good vibe going on. So looking forward to it. Yeah.
See, I saw you sipping a little something there, trying to get the juices flowing.
Love it. I love it.
And my Blade Runner glass.
Hey, there you go. Perfect.
Awesome.
Cheers.
We're in the space, right?
Declan, how about you?
Similar to Mooney. I've worked for probably most publishers, mainly as an artist, but like more recently as a writer. But I'm kind of most known for doing a run with Warren Ellis on Moon Knight from a few years ago. But I've gotten to work on things like Batman and Wolverine, and all the stuff you know I loved as a kid. Steve and I would have similar kind of experience and backgrounds, but like I think we've had a good amount of experience across the board from starting out to established pros to writing to drawing, what have you.
You ran the gamut through the comic industry to where you are today.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's destroyed us.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, okay.
Hey, it kept you here. I mean, I see
It is
Steven go,
gray
yeah,
hair.
you got a little gray right there. Is that because you were
A
working
little.
with Declan, or is that because you're working on too many projects?
Mostly Declan.
Oh, understandable.
Yeah,
The
he almost had a
dynamic
spit
duo.
take.
You know, Bruce
That's
Wayne
fair.
went gray after working with so many Robins as well, but we
True.
wouldn't call you the Batman and Robin duo. We would call you more of the Avengers duo going on, because the work that you've been working on are pretty nice, and we'll get into that later. But first, we have some questions from you in chat. Feel free. This is a
Yes.
party. You are a part of Commix as well, as always. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns as in, what are you working on? Because I want you to work on this. Throw it in the chat, and we'll definitely bring it to the gentleman to answer. Now, we like to start off with a little icebreaker, and the icebreaker would be top 3 projects that you worked on over the years.
No pressure.
Me first, or me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Top 3. Well, I have
Your
to
top 3, because
Yeah, the top three that you've worked
have.
on.
Even though you have children, right? People have children out there. You always say you have a favorite, but you never tell them which is your favorite. But today we're going to go ahead and spoil that. So go ahead.
My favorites. Well, my absolute favorite would be my own book, which is Half Past Danger, just because that's so close to my heart.
Yes.
But my favorite Marvel was probably Black Widow, because I'm a big Black Widow fan, and that was a big deal for me. That was last year. We worked with Jodie Hauser, and I love the character from the movies. I've always loved Natasha in the comics,
Nice.
and I'm all into that whole super spy genre stuff. That's the same kind of character in my own book. Love that. At DC, it's got to be Grayson, because I'm a big Dick Grayson fan. Speaking of Robins, we all know who the real Robin is, the first
right.
and best. So,
Oh God, you got
I
Matt
did
pulling
a
stuff out
decent
of the
run on
shelf.
that book. Yeah, with Tom King when he was just turned
I'm
into
a very
Tom
big
King.
Nightwing fan.
Oh, nice.
My
nice,
extreme
nice.
stick.
That's
There you go.
That's the beating stick.
My wife uses it on me. We're good.
You probably had it coming. So definitely Grayson at DC, but and Batman's in that, so you've got Batman's always a factor, and that's the only time I've really drawn Batman professionally is in those issues. So yeah, that would be me. Half Past Danger, Black Widow, and Grayson.
Awesome. I'm gonna hold a question for you. I'm gonna make sure I have to do this so I know I have it.
Yeah.
Declan, what about you?
Yeah, Moon Knight would definitely be one of them. The thing I mentioned earlier. I know there's going to be a TV. Nobody knows who he is, but there's going to be a TV show of him.
Grabbing that question too.
Yeah, but that was an amazing opportunity, and I loved working on that book. Second will probably be the project I did afterwards, which was Injection with the same writer, Warren Ellis, which was a kind of a weird genre, twisty mystery. Yeah, it's a very weird book
okay.
that covers a lot of different places. But that was my first kind of big creator-owned series, which I loved. I love working on, and I guess the third one would probably be, I did a book called Savage Town, which was the first creator-owned book that I wrote. It was about like gangsters in a city in Ireland. And it was weird. Like it wasn't superheroes, it wasn't action adventure and thing. It was more of a kind of a straight up crime story. And I put kind of similar to Stephen in Half Past Danger. Like a lot was put into that I hadn't really done before. And it's more of a kind of like an indie book, but it was very creatively challenging and rewarding.
Peace.
Okay, so. This brings up something very interesting, Declan. Now you write and you can write and draw, obviously, right?
Yeah, Stephen too.
Yeah,
You're both artists
great.
and writers, yeah.
So me and Matt were going back and forth talking about this. We really want to know, what do you prefer? Do you prefer drawing or writing? I'm going to go off of and we're going to take a gander guess right here. I'm going to guess that Steve likes to draw more than write, but he'll dabble in both, and maybe Declan likes to write more than draw. What would you say, Matt? First. What are you thinking?
Me? Matt?
Yeah,
what am I thinking? I mean, I would say drawing. I think artist. I feel like you get a little, even though writing is very creative, like you've both created, well, Stephen, you've created your own stories now, and Declan, you as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool too. I mean, I think we've all collectively had created our own stories, but there's something about just sitting down and drawing, inking, and penning. So I feel like that kind of may be the route where this may be going. Thoughts?
So which one do you guys choose?
Well, me, you're right. Yeah, it's definitely drawing. I feel a lot more confident drawing because I've done it for so long. I've been writing for Jesus, it's 8 years now. I was going to say I've just started writing, but the first Half-Past Danger was 2013.
Wow,
Oh, man.
Which is eight years ago.
feels like
So I guess-
yesterday.
Yeah.
But there's a caveat, a major caveat to this, and I'm sure Declan will agree with me. I love to write for other people because I don't have to draw it then. And because there's this whole debate that rages through comics, you know, all the fanboys want to say the writer's more important, the artist is more important, the colorist, whoever. Regardless of who's more important, just the man hours, the woman hours in the chair, drawing is the harder, more physical task. So if I can write a script, but now don't get me wrong, it could take a week to write a decent script for a single issue and send that to somebody else and have that come back in a month and it's all drawn really nicely. That's probably the apex. that's the end game. That's the end game right there. That's what we're reaching for. Like when you can get to that position and do that regularly and still have your own project you're drawing on the side or writing it as well. That's the sweet spot for me. Get some other sucker to do it. Is my philosophy.
It's worked out kind of weird because we're both Stephen and I are working on something that we're writing and not drawing, and
Nice.
great. You know, I mean, you're still being creative, but you like it's not the man hours like Stephen was saying. Like you know, we're
Or lady hours.
our lady hours. It's just less. It's a bit more mentally taxing maybe, but like it's also mentally taxing to be drawing on top of like the amount of hours you put in the chair every day is really taxing. But I actually, you know, I'd like to play up to the you know, artiste thing and say writing I prefer, but actually no, I prefer drawing. I don't like writing.
Okay.
I like
the difference.
Oh.
No, I like it when it's done. You know, I like when I have written it.
Okay.
But
You
I
don't
find
like
it
doing the work. You just want to snap your fingers and it's done.
It would be great. That would be great. Just because I just struggle with it more in that I always find there's something else to be done. You know, like, oh, there's a cover. I should probably get that done first because it's just more naturally. I can go into a state where I draw, where I get very zen, and you're just in it. Writing's different because you're kind of like computing things all the time, and I find like I have to force myself to sit down and actually do it. But I like having done it, and I like the experience. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different set of mental skills. Whereas with drawing, like I just genuinely, you know, especially inking. Inking is just my favorite thing to do.
Oh wow, you like inking? I hate inking.
So when you talk about the comic book world, obviously you guys have had your foot in the door for a while, and you've been doing a bunch of things, whether it's been self-creating, you know, Half-Past Danger, or working with Warren Ellis on Moon Knight, and anything and everything between. You know, the industry right now is very unique where we are today. So before we get into movies and TVs, what specifically with the comic world, where do you see it going post-pandemic? Obviously, there's been a bunch of things happening on where we are now post-pandemic, which hopefully is right around the corner. Where do you see it going?
What do you mean by it? Like,
It's a great question.
So, like, you know, before all this stuff happened, you would go to the comic book store and get hard copies of comics, get excited, get figures and stuff like that, hang out with your friends. Well, the pandemic probably put a wedge in a lot of that stuff for everybody. I've seen a lot of comic book shops close up. Very heartbreaking stuff, especially local shops. Where do you see it going post-pandemic? Do you think the comic book shop is going to come back? Do you think work is going to start overflowing with projects for you? Or are you not going to see any difference at all? What do you think?
I think the way they're delivered, we're definitely going to see a difference. But I think that was coming before the pandemic. I think the shops that are held strong and are there now, I think we'll see them, that they've proved that they're hanging around. They're not going anywhere. Because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm dying to get back to that social scene. If nothing else.
Absolutely.
Just to go in and whatever discussions, talk about the TV shows, talk about the new books. I do think single issues, though, I think they're on a ticking clock. I mean, I don't think graphic novels or trades will ever be going away because you'll have in my opinion, you'll have your section in the store. You've got your toys, you'll have your graphic novel collections. And then I think that the single issues will probably go digital, and then you'll just get printed collections, like maybe like the Japanese market or the French market. But I can't see stores going away. It's so niche still, but they're so essential. And I mean, you just know nobody fell out of love, I think, with comics during the pandemic. I certainly didn't. If anything, it's kind of reinforced. I was maybe taking stuff for granted, but as far as stores beforehand, I was like, I'll go in. I've got a stack of stuff waiting for me in my order. Usually they end up posting it out to me because I don't get out there. Declan lives really near the shop, but I don't. So I think, I'm dying to get in, just have those. It's the social aspect. It's like getting back to the pub and whatever, getting back to the cinema. I can't wait to just go in and do the stuff I used to do on a regular basis again.
I'm into that. What about you, Declan?
Similar, but a little different in that. I think we're definitely going through a boom. We're going to go through a boom of like people really appreciating things they've been missing out on. Weirdly, though, I know with the pandemic, like sales are up. I'd say it's a mix of people really wanting to support their comic book shops during hard times. I'm sure that was a lot of it. A lot of us people maybe just ordering things through the internet. So, you know, like a lot of reading books they've always meant to read. I know I did that. I haven't read any of them because I haven't had time, but like I got a lot of stuff over the pandemic. I don't think single issue is going to go away, but I think like what's happening with the industry is I think that it's like diversifying in terms of content and how you read them. Like I don't want to read. I have read comics digitally. I will sometimes, but I don't particularly enjoy it. I prefer reading things in trade, but like
it's so much different having that comic book in your hand. I had a bunch of digital comics. I know Frank and I have talked about this before on the show. A lot of my Injustice comics, because I was big into the Injustice series when it came out. I had it all digital, and I'm like, I went over and I finally had them in my hand. I'm like, oh, there's nothing. Having that, it's the smell of a brand new comic book. It's like, you know, brand new Corinthian leather in a car. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
But like, if somebody wants to read it now and they can read it on a tablet, then they should be able to do that if there's enough of an audience for it. So I think that's what I mean. Is like you can take the one thing and you can do different versions of it for however you want to read it. I think things are going to go more that way as regards how people are reading things digitally or. You know, I know, like, because I'm doing a monthly book at the moment, and part of it is like, if it's going to be a monthly book, it's got to make sure that you're delivering story every month and not writing for the trade, and that like it's an experience. So I think maybe, you know, people are going to take more attention to how they're putting their stories out. And I would say there was definitely a bit of a wobble when the main comic distributors closed down during the pandemic, but since then, I mean. Work kind of dried up and then it's been a blossom again ever since. So there's a lot of different projects happening. I think people looking for other alternatives that are outside the mainstream and also Steve and I work essentially in like, you know, mainstream-esque comics, but you know, you have people like Raina Tengelmeyer and Dog Boy, and you have things for kids and you have things for adults. And I think what's interesting is 10 years ago, everything was superheroes. And I know culturally that's where people are now with like all the adaptations and stuff, but as regards to people reading comics, I think that there's more different types of creators and stories happening now than there has been in ages.
That's true. You know, the funny thing about it is you said having it on a platform for everybody to be available. That's a really good point because in the chat, Slash says, as a visually impaired comic reader, I am very thankful for the digital copies that I can zoom in on, but I still miss the comic book feel. So, thank you for being able to keep doing your trade and making it available everywhere. I mean, the digital age is very great for that because if this wasn't around, we had this pandemic many years ago. We don't know what would happen to the comic book industry when it comes to that.
There were people shifting and doing different things. You know, there's things like Panel Syndicate, or Marcus Martin's platform where you can just pay whatever you want. Yeah, Kickstarter definitely had a massive. Both Stephen and I did a Kickstarter project. You know, so people were finding alternatives to get stuff out there. So I mean, I think that's been a really interesting byproduct.
That kind of leads us into our next question. With all the adaptations and especially the MCU and DCEU being so popular now, pretty much put a big boom on comics and brought a lot of people that weren't really interested in comics into the comic world and seeking out, you know, shows like this and actual comic book artists. And now you are not just a name in a book; you actually get to physically be seen now. And I think it brought a lot of stuff to the forefront. Do you think that it's easier or harder to get into the comic book industry now with how popular the comic book world is? And that's as a worker, so to speak. Like,
I think there's two sides to that. It's a lot easier in that it's far more accessible. When we started out, we go far so back, like we were talking about conventions earlier on. I schlepped our portfolio around the States, San Diego, New York, all the big shows, and queued up for portfolio reviews. Now with the internet, it's been a massive equalizer. Like people in Ireland or people in South America or Spain or Italy, wherever, there's big congregations of comic book creators coming from all over the place because it's all sent online to FTP sites now, as opposed to when I started, they used to FedEx the artwork over. They literally send the physical boards and then they would be sent back a couple of months later, and you'd hope you get them all back. Like now that only lasted a year or so when I broke in, but it's nuts the difference now. But on the flip side of that, though, is there's so many more people trying to break in because everybody has the access to the internet. I mean, your grandma has it, whoever has it, the library has it. So everyone knows where there's a computer with the internet, and anyone who can draw well and has an interest in comics has an avenue to get in there. So I think the competition, theoretically, it's hard looking back because we're in it so long, but theoretically the competition should be greater now, I imagine. I don't know what Deck thinks.
No, yes, similar. The competition has never been higher, but like, it's not that. I mean, it depends what you mean breaking in. One, like, again, what Stephen and I do is specific, but like, there's people who are breaking in ways like are doing digital comics that are doing insane compared to say what we sell or people are reading. But who are they all paying for it, or can you make a living? Some are huge. I mean, look, streamers like what you guys are doing, you can make money that way. That was not something that was possible 10 years ago. If you told me that, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Webcomics is blown up so much now. They get their own shows on Netflix now.
Success is, I mean, breaking in is kind of a broader term, and again, in a good way because you get different types of stuff. But I think in a lot of ways it is easier. I think you can make a name for yourself. You can find an audience that can support you. So I think in some ways it is easier. And
I like that.
But it depends. Like, it's not easy to. You might break in, but like, it's staying in is a whole other.
Staying power is a whole different scenario. Yeah.
No matter how you do the work, you still need to actually do it. And I think there has been some people who do be very good of having an online brand, but not actually being able to go away from their Twitter handle and actually draw and write the stuff. So I think a lot of people have crashed and burned maybe in the last few years. But I think it's easier to get an audience, but whether that audience can sustain you.
Or you could
different thing. And if you want to break into a company, it's a different thing. But I don't know. I think there's been a huge equalizer with the internet in the last 10 years.
On that note, though, just what Declan is saying there, I think discipline is such a huge aspect that people might not realize going in. I mean, you get these amazing artists on their Twitter feed. It's just pinup after pinup or short story of incredible artwork. But then when they do get offered by Marvel or DC or whoever it is to do comic books, it's the timetable that maybe blows people's minds. It's the output you've got to have. It's the hours in the chair. Like, I mean, when I started out, I was
drawing Captain Marvel flying is great. But like drawing her sitting down, drinking a cup of coffee, then having to go to work, and like with the buses in the background and the plants and like all that stuff,
everything in the background. That was the hardest thing for me to get used to.
It's not glamorous. It's cool. It's a really cool job, but it's not as like anything. It's not as, I'm sure the Twitch gig is the same. It's not as glamorous as people might think. You're not on camera all the time. It's not all front end. There's so much back end to these jobs. But
he gets it. He's a born streamer.
No, thanks.
Very, very quickly before we get into the next question, it's kind of funny how you said that, because one of my friends got picked up from Instagram. He was just drawing characters left and right, and now he's doing Static Shock and stuff. And it's pretty cool how that happens. So I mean, it's very accessible through platforms. Even if you're not really pushing your portfolio out, you can have a portfolio review just by posting stuff. And he was posting comic pages and stuff. He wasn't just doing pinups, which was great.
That's good, because I think that's the problem sometimes is like there's a lot of people who are very good at like what beautiful Instagram posts, but like have no idea about storytelling. And we're like, there's a lot of people like, I get in trouble sometimes saying this, but like, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough.
That's the truth. They gotta know
the truth. You gotta know it. How do you not get better?
Yeah, there's younger creators who it seems like on the surface that they're ready, but when you actually have to do the 90% of drawing that isn't the fun stuff, they hit a wall and they're not able to handle it. And I think there's a big danger that a lot of younger creators they'll just hit a wall with a huge audience that we're, say, Stephen and I, would have done smaller books and gotten kind of the hang of it, and then you kind of build up like a resilience and a work ethic and a way to make it happen that it's just not possible to be able to do like that.
But that said, there's no right way to do it. There's so many avenues. I mean, the way we did it is not necessarily the way to do it. We did it 20 years ago, so it's definitely changed. So don't be disheartened by that kind of talk. If you've got the discipline and the skills and you're willing to put the time in, you can do it for sure.
So you guys have worked on a lot of different properties, obviously, as we talked about before. And two of the things that are booming right now are the MCU and arguably the DCU. It's a whole nother conversation. Do you think the universe that has been created for both, and thinking about other things too, like Invincible, The Boys, etc., do you think that they do the comic book universe's justice? What's being portrayed on TV and theaters, what you guys work on daily, do you think it's doing it justice? That's a tough one. I know it's probably not a short answer.
Well, I think it's where you go, Alan.
I'd say yeah. Like, I mean, I watched the first episode of Loki, and I've seen the other shows, and like, you know, like WandaVision, that was weird. Like, they really went to weird places with that. Which, when I was a kid, like I was watching Incredible Hulk reruns, you know, which is the most pared down version of the character, which is great, very accessible.
Different name. It wasn't even Bruce Banner.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that's right.
David Banner.
David Banner.
Mm-hmm.
But all these things are the most basic ideas, the concepts, because that's all people could get involved now, or could get on board at the time. Now you've got all this really wacky. There's been different actors playing the same characters. How many Spider-Men have there been? Spider-Verse, like how they what they've done with adaptations, which I wouldn't have thought they would do, is really lean in. Avengers Endgame was a weird 1960s type Avengers story where they go back in time. Like, if you told me that years ago, I'd be like, no one's going to watch that. They've really kind of leaned into what the weirdness of what a lot of those comics are, in a way that mainstream audiences have totally gone in on, which I'm very surprised. But as a viewer, it's great to see. Like, and I think whatever, like, The Boys was like. Invincible, having Corey Walker and
well, that's the thing. If Kirkman is on Invincible's going to be a faithful adaptation. It depends on the and just on the Endgame thing. Like, I think it's because it's cool to be a nerd now or whatever, but it's a lot more acceptable to be into this genre stuff. So they're going to lean, once they see there's money on the table, they're going to lean right into that, and you're going to get Doctor Strange Magic Time stories. Like, we're getting Doctor Strange 2 is going to bend everything all over the place with Wanda, and I mean, they know there's an audience there. Once they saw there's an audience there, they just didn't think people wanted that kind of in-depth storytelling, I guess, when we were kids. It was just it was an hour a week that wrap it up, done. There's no overarching story. Whereas now it's all about story, it's all about character. And they're getting real actors to play these
TV wasn't in a place where it could do that at the time, but now the gloves are off, you know. It's pretty nuts.
Well, you would argue comic books are the primary IP generator in the entertainment universe right now. I mean, what's bigger than comic book stories as far as movies go, as far as video games go?
Yeah, I mean, look at Guardians of the Galaxy, Miles Morales, Spider-Man specifically talking about video games,
movies,
and then
bringing millions and billions of dollars.
I mean, outside of Avatar recently, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in chat too, I think that the highest grossing movies recently have been comic books. Yes, Star Wars aside, actually, because Star Wars is Star Wars. It's all it's all Marvel. I get it. I'm a Superman fan. I'm in pain. I get it.
I would
hold on. Let's have a conversation there. You could argue Marvel are adhering very closely to the storyline set out in the comic books and the tone and theme set out in the comic books. Where DC, and I'm a big DC guy, whereas DC have maybe been bringing more auteur directors in with their own visions of what the characters could be, as opposed to what they're perceived as what they are. So there's an argument there to say, by sticking to the source material and adhering as closely as possible, even if it is a little goofy.
Thank you.
Like, they say Superman is too boring. Well, Cap is the same basic character, and he's as Boy Scout as they come. And, I mean, they're my favorite movies.
He doesn't have
language, really. Language.
Winter Soldier is the best movie Marvel ever made, in my opinion.
I've had that conversation before. As much as I'm a big Superman fan, and I could talk about Zod and the Donner cuts and everything, Winter Soldier is arguably my favorite, not just superhero movie, but it's definitely in my top 5 movies, period, if not top 3. It is such a
it's a spy movie. It's an espionage movie. So
Which
a guy with a shield running around in the middle of it, like, it's great.
Which we do have. Time is running short here. I'm sure we could talk for hours here.
We got 2 more minutes.
Let's keep going.
But I have a quick yes or no question for you guys based on what we were just talking about. You guys have been in the industry so long. We're talking about movies, TV, video games, and yes or no, because I don't know what you guys can say or can't say about it. Has your work directly impacted, or have we seen your work directly shown in ways on TV? That you could talk about on TVs, movies, or video games.
Well, I would say it's probably no for both of us, because all the stuff that's happening now is coming from stories from maybe 10 years ago, and like that's when we kind of both came up.
Moon Knight's about to
I was
come out.
just about to say, you guys have both done a lot of work on Moon Knight, and I am very excited for that
Declan's
one.
baby.
Yeah,
Declan's
I
baby.
mean, he doesn't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
He doesn't know. Yeah.
I got a
We are this rung of the ladder. The ladder is up to here. We are here.
Yeah. A friend of mine DM'd me, so like, oh, this is cool about Moon Knight. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I saw they released like the logo. Like that's the first I heard of it. I have no idea. So I haven't a clue what's going on. But I don't know. Moon Knight's had so many different iterations. I've absolutely no idea if they're going to use ours.
They do. Sorry, just on that question. Today, somebody tweeted me. There's this new Snake Eyes movie, a G.I. Joe movie coming out, and some of my art is just for the promo for the movie. And I mean, it's out. That doesn't go anywhere near us. That's just the marketing department, pulling cool shots from their archives. And we might see it on a T-shirt in 2 years and go, nobody sent me that T-shirt. But it's great, though.
So buy your own T-shirt.
It's cool. It is. It's really, really cool. But when you get to be this old and cynical, you're like, yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of that pie as well. You know what I mean? But listen, it's the deal you signed up for. As a kid, the job that we're doing now, if you had told 12-year-old me the job I'm doing now, you'd blow my mind. Absolutely blow my mind.
Absolutely. It's everybody's dream right now too. And I mean, the like young kids can like fresh out of the womb are coming out with Spider-Man outfits on and stuff, and it's just beautiful to see. And I love it because as you said, nerd culture right now is just so accepted. But speaking on that of nerd culture, we're gonna get into some pretty nerdy stuff right now because we have something very exciting for you, audience, and that's because Mr. Mooney and Declan are not here only just to wow you with their good looks and their amazing stuff about comics. They are actually going to release something. The first scene we got here on GCX Comics, first scene, issue number 4 of Carnage. So let's go ahead and flip over and show that. And Declan, Steven, the floor is your ballroom. We're going to show you guys the inks, and then we're going to show you the dress copy, and then we're going to go into the detail shot. But look at this, talking about comics that are going to be affecting movies. I mean, Carnage got announced not too long ago. Granted, it's a Sony joint, but about that. But if you want the cooler version of Carnage, it's right here. So you should do it. So, oh my gosh, look at the inks. I'm an artist myself. Worked in the comics for a little while back in the day, and let me tell you, man, I love the dynamic Carnage stuff. I love the really dark world they put Venom in recently with the recent comics, going back to the origin story and everything, because that story got flipped upside down. We just thought he came from a space cookie, but no, there's a lot more to that. Now we have Carnage, and if you want to tell us about Declan and Steven, you want to tell us about this book?
Well, I'll say I know that the symbiote fans of Marvel are hardcore, because I used to work on Venom a few years ago before it was ever a film, and like I still have hardcore like symbiote fans get onto me, but this was for a series called Carnage, Red, White, and Blood, which is effectively all these short stories where you can just kind of do any Carnage story at all. And because Carnage is like Cletus Cassidy, who's a serial killer, I thought this is a cool opportunity to do like a dark serial killer with a symbiote twist. First time I ever saw Steven's work was for a kind of a detective series. It was just an Irish comic, and so it's kind of cool to see him do these kind of street level stuff again. Stephen drew it, so he should talk about it.
I am the schmuck who did the art on this story. Declan wrote the story.
Woohoo!
So we were talking earlier on about the writing and drawing, and we didn't do a huge amount of. We did a little bit of back and forth on it, didn't we? You said it.
It's a short story. There's only so much you can get into, But yeah, we had a bit of back and I had an idea, and we kind of bounced things back a little bit.
And side note, just to let everyone know, if you want to pick this up, it isn't available yet. This is why this is the, speaking of E3 and Summer Game Fest, world premiere. This is the variant cover you're seeing for it to issue 4 that will be available to all of you on July 14th. So a hair under a month from now, you'll be able to pick up this issue. Just remember, it's Carnage, Black, White, and Blood, and it's going to be issue 4 coming out, available to all of you, July 14th, 1-4. Gentlemen?
Yeah. Well, you're looking at the inks now. Okay, so both Declan and I still draw what they call traditionally on paper with pens and pencils and everything like that, whereas it's, I guess, in vogue now to be digital. Although I don't know what the split. It's, I guess 50-50 these days. I don't know what Deck thinks.
Yeah.
There's still a fair few people doing it the old-fashioned way. So that's the inks there. That's just done with some brush pens and a little bit of dry brush stuff. Declan would do a lot of ink washes on his stuff, so I did a little bit of that on this cover, just because it's kind of echoing Declan in a way, just as a gag for us more than anything else.
To honor me, I think.
Just to show him it wasn't very hard to do.
Okay.
And then the colored version, I do the colors on this myself. A lot of times when you're doing covers for Marvel or wherever, your schedule won't allow you to do the colors yourself. Whereas Declan actually is predominantly coloring his own stuff these days. It takes me so long to color. I'm so slow, and like it would take me as long to color a picture as it was to draw it, which is crazy in this industry. You've got to be able to like get it bang, bang, bang out the door.
So yeah, the story though is because it's like it's limited. It's black and white with red elements.
Yeah.
Like cool thing is seeing like Stephen choose what's going to be. Like those decisions are more stylized, which is always really cool to see. You know.
Yeah, everybody loves red, right? Black, white, and red. They're the coolest. I mean, what other colors do you need? Like
one of my favorite colors.
I think it's built into our psyches. I don't know, as comic book fans or whatever it is. So it's great fun to do, and it's short, so you're in the door and you're out. Like cards on the table. I'm not the biggest Carnage guy. I'm a fan of Venom. I like Venom. I like the whole mythos, and Donny Cates, like you said, and Stegman doing great things on the Venom book. But this was just a nice little nugget of like a Spidey villain who, we all know Carnage from back in the day, even back when Mark Bagley brought him in, whatever. Which is that Amazing Spider-Man? I don't know, 90s.
So
it's fun. Yeah, you get to a few cool shots. There's a nice splash page in there, some storytelling, a double page splash, and then you're out the door. So it's the perfect kind of little nugget of a gig. And plus, we didn't have to stomach each other for more than 10 pages.
I do love. Let's get into a detailed shot of this while Declan goes into some details about it. But I want to say, Maximum Carnage was one of my favorite games /comic series back then. It was very true to Carnage and it stayed very raw. I mean, being in the '90s back then, you would think we would get a kind of a washed down version of Carnage, but they kept it real. And then they kind of like softened him up over the time. You kind of forgot about him. It was all about Venom, anti-Venom, and all that stuff. Agent Venom, you name it. But look at this.
That was
detail.
me. I was Agent Venom. That's what I was.
Oh my god!
That's his boy here.
This. I'm like a kid in the candy store right now. Right now, we're looking at the detail shot. Thank goodness we blew this up because my god, the detail in this thing is mind blowing.
It doesn't do it justice why we had it before. This thing is absolutely beautiful.
Moly.
I want it on my wall.
Well, this is why it takes so long.
This is why it takes so long. So actually, you know what? From start to finish, how long did something like this take you to get done? And outside of approvals and whatnot, I guess just start to finish, how long do you think it took you to get done?
Well, this one, as far as covers go at Marvel, generally you will have to provide various ideas, what they call thumbnails, 3 or 4 sample images so that the editor can get a decision on what they like from your ideas. And then you would take that one to fruition to a full-fledged drawing. But this one, the timeline was a bit short. So Marvel actually just said an iconic shot of Carnage, just whatever you think looks cool, go for it, and then send us the ink. So I roughed it out and drew it all in the same day, I think.
Wow. That's too much for me. Too much talent.
long day though.
Long day.
Yeah, a long day. But
that
would be considered
shift,
between us. That would be considered a handy cover because it's one shot of one character. Now there's a lot of work on that character, but there's no really background to speak of. I mean, he's sitting on a little Venom gargoyle there with a bit of smoke and stuff in the background.
I like how you incorporated that in there.
Yeah, it's just fun, It's just like I'm more of a Venom guy, so the little Venom gargoyle was kind of my little nod to Venom. A day, and then the colors, I guess, half a day. Once they approve the inks, the colors are done. But that's a quick example, I think. Declan, are you a day for a cover? What do you normally?
I would say maybe 2 days between coloring and like.
Oh, with coloring, sure, yeah.
Yeah, but like if I'd spend like a few hours roughing out ideas. And then like coloring that rough and figuring out what I would do in the color. So, and then like penciling and inking is probably a day. So I think maybe 2 days overall, like from beginning to finish. If that's how I was working. Yeah,
I'd normally with colors I'd be 2 days as well, which I think is probably industry standard. You have to be at least that fast, I'd say, to go.
So actually,
you need to be turning stuff around. Not super. Like it depends on when deadlines are, but like you can't be spending weeks and weeks and weeks on one piece.
So then, obviously, that was the art side of it. Then for Declan, for you, from start to finish, I know obviously you weren't the only writer on this, right?
I was only so it's 3 short stories in the issue. 3 short stories in the issue. Okay.
So how long did it create you to create that short story?
It took it took a while, but only because like back and forth with editors. So I think like it was Christmas. I wrote the pitch. I was supposed to be drawing it at the time, so I was writing it for myself. But then when I realized I couldn't because of deadlines, I made it harder to draw for Stephen.
Yeah, old sloppy seconds here. Come in the door.
I got a great job for you. Something.
Originally, whenever I'm trying to think of writing something, it's like what would be cool to draw, you know. So I was thinking of myself originally, which I normally do. And but I mean, sometimes you're sitting waiting on approvals, and then you'll get notes back, and I'll tweak on it. It wasn't the hardest story in the world because I had a very very clear idea of what I was going for. But like, as also knowing Stephen's work, I definitely tweaked it to kind of make it like what's going to make him do something that's like he's going to enjoy more, which I think always makes the pages look better.
Yeah.
Hey, dynamic duel indeed, and I have to say I love it. I'm going to definitely pick it up. I'm going to try to find a local shop around because I really want to get the physical, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, same thing.
But chat, we are at the point in time now where we are taking questions, so feel free. You got about roughly around like 5-10 minutes to go about these questions. So jump in, throw those questions up so we can ask them, and then while we wait, we'll be asking ours.
We got one right away. Yeah.
Dirty Gunner Gaming says hardest comic book each of them have worked on. Ooh, good question. I saw the eyebrows pop.
Yeah.
Dope.
Well, hardest in what respect? Like,
well, yeah, because you're both artists and writers. I guess lightning round, one of both.
Yeah, deadlines or art.
I would say Moon Knight. The run I did with Warren was 6 different issues of 6 different stories, and they were all wildly different. One was like a kind of a raid type story, so that was really challenging. And the one before that was this crazy one with like mind virus and mushroom gods, and you know, it's not like drawing like a story of part 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was just wildly different each issue. So that was, I just remember it was a very inventive book, and that's why it's one of my favorites. But it was so hard to draw. It was just giving 110% every single day for 7 months. It was tough, but worth it.
Oh
yeah. On that same note, actually, like Declan saying, when you're doing a one-off issue every time, you got to set the world up and you got to develop it, and then you got to do that again the next month. Whereas Half-Past Danger or whatever, I've got 18 issues now. It's all set in the same world. So you've done a lot of that setup in the first few issues, and then you can not relax, but you can put more into the action or the character work. So when I did the first issue of my first issue of Grayson was called Grayson Future's End with Tom King. It was like when DC did this Future's End crossover, and again, it was all one and done. So it was a lot of setup involved. But not only that, that was like my audition for DC. They had seen Half-Past Danger, and Scott Snyder had asked me would I be interested in doing something for DC. And Mark Doyle was the editor at the time of the Bat Office, and he, because Scott had brought me in, he wanted to see several, he wanted to see full layouts for the issue, then pencils, then inks, which normally I would do very rough pencils from my layouts and go straight to inks, just to cut out the middleman there, because that's a lot of extra work to do full pencils. It's nearly another job entirely. So I remember it did take me an awful lot longer just to do that because I didn't want to screw it up. And Grayson was a huge deal for me, and DC was a huge deal for me. So I really, really put the hours in. And that's back before I had a kid. So I was able to do that. Oh. Like Declan said, you're talking not all night, but some seriously long nights. Well, I mean, it's worth it. I mean, I always find it so interesting. Sorry to keep going on, but I find it so interesting now that this massive conversation online about what's acceptable and what's not. When you're talking about crunch with video games, you're talking about a movie set style, whatever you're talking about. Some people maybe of a younger generation, like we're so old, but they're of the opinion that it is not acceptable to go over your 8 hours, to go past your union guidelines, whatever it is. That's the cutoff point. And then I remember these long nights we did back then, and I don't feel like it wasn't worth it at the time. I feel like what I did then was paying my dues, and it got me to where I am now. So I think there's a real conversation there as to what is required and what's not required, and from the outside looking in. But then that's a whole different conversation. Sorry to derail that.
No, that's a very good point. That goes with everything. It even goes with streaming. And what we do here is if you don't, I mean, turning on the camera and being on camera, that's the fun part. It's the after hours that really pushes you to the next level and who puts the work in. And everything takes a little bit of elbow grease, as we like to call it, to get where you want to get. We got one more question. You want to go for it, Matt? Or we got another question?
We got like 2-3 minutes left here. So let's see if we can make this lightning. What comic was their all-time favorite to work on?
Yeah, lightning.
Yeah, lightning. All-time favorite.
For me, Half-Past Danger, the first issue.
It's yours,
okay.
Declan?
Yeah, probably Moon Knight issue 1.
Moon Knight issue 1. And I think we
Declan
got
loves a challenge.
yeah.
No, issue,
Declan
no,
loves
issue,
those
five,
challenges.
issue five. Issue five was the one. It was the one I had.
No, issue 3.
No, 7.
It's all coming back.
And then really quick here, how long does it truly take to get a book from storyboard to shelves? Rough estimate, because we actually are running down on time here. Smile.
The quickest you could do it would be, I would say, 3 or 4 months. That's in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, like a week
Holy
to
I
outline,
didn't
a week to write, 6 weeks to draw.
Gotta go to the printers then, and then
Yep.
get back to the
Actually get it out of
Colors,
publication,
lettering.
ship it, the whole night. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
approvals.
crazy.
Yeah, you're not even taking in Disney into account in that
Yeah,
scenario.
they could just be
or
like,
Warner Brothers. Yeah. Let's do it again.
I've just written something that I'm about to draw, and that'll be out in October.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for coming. Real quick, everybody, if you want to follow all of us on the Comics and Horror, we run out of time and space is limited space, so to speak, and we have to move on over. All of our Twitter links are right there. Stephen Mooney and Declan, thank you so very, very, very much for coming and joining us here on GCX and giving us a premiere of issue 4 of Carnage and giving us a little bit of in your world. And chat, we are unfortunately done here, but GCX is not done.
Yes.
There's so much more GCX to go. Please hang by and stay tuned as we keep going throughout the day. Have a big show coming up, and up next will be Star Wars and Scotch with Kevin and Tim. So after a short little break, don't go anywhere, guys. And Stephen and Declan, thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't forget their Carnage, Black, White, and Blood will be available issue 4 with the variant cover artwork on July 15th. For those of you trying to keep track at home, it looks like a short while ago, the GCX campaign broke over $3.5 million raised for St. Jude. So everybody gets a round of applause and huge thank you for that. Declan, myself, Frank, and Steven, looking over my squares. I'm like, where am I? We got a couple of seconds left here. You can check us out on Twitter. That's all of our information up here.
Yep.
And of course, as Frank said, Kevin and Timmy are going live with Star Wars and Scotch with some special guests. Make sure to tell Tim happy birthday. He wants to play more Fortnite, so do that for us. I know how much he loves it.
Next Saturday.
Yes.
Do your homework, Loki. We'll talk more about it then.
Yes,
Have
not
it easy,
this
guys.
Saturday, next Saturday, chat. We love you.